think you talked about extension, which I think is a good segue into how engineers actually want to use it in their product development processes, which kind of brings me to engineers are used to working on a 2D screen with a 3D geometry, so they can kind of grasp the concept of what 3D actually, what it's looking like in the real world. But where's the added benefit now of XR?
Well, as you introduced the concept of 3D, it's definitely not new. CAD, computer-aided design, is existing for around 50 years now in general. And the thing is, to work with 3D data, it's now a reality for, I would say, the 90% of the industry existing in the world. But the issue is that everything is bidimensional, so there is no perception of the volume of the object. There is no possibility, for example, to overimpose a 3D data with something that is real. If you do it on a screen, usually you have a picture in background, and then again you go in a 2D system. And actually, another thing that happens most of the time when you work just with a normal computer and even a very large screen, the person interacting with the data is stationary. It's in front of the screen. And they move the object in the screen to be able to see any perspective. When we look at the same scenario but wearing a XR device, what you are really doing is you are bringing to life your 3D model in a way that gets displayed in a real environment with its correct size and scaling, its volume. And it's not anymore the user that needs to rotate, for example, the object, but you can move around the object. So you have the feeling of a real object in a real space. And a lot of the interaction that usually you do on a screen, and they don't give you a real feedback about, for example, the shape of the object, because even if the perspective and the visual quality is very high, certain details, they will never look like, oh, this is a very rounded surface. But if you have the object in a real environment and you can see it as it is real, you can actually start to work and think completely differently about the task that you are used to do. We have been working, for example, with the automotive industry for a long time now. And if you think about a car, the possibility to display a car in scale 1:1, it means that you can have a real interaction with just opening a door or sitting inside the car, or having a look to specific details from any perspective, but being close to the real object. So also for people that, for example, in the manufacturing processes, they have been far away from working with digital data. They have been always working with physical parts, for example, in the prototyping phase. Now they can start to have the same kind of experience they are used to, but working with digital data. And this means that they can reproduce exactly the task they are familiar with, processes they've been tuning for a long time, but they can actually do it with the flexibility of an object that is not real. So just think about, for example, very heavy object. If you want to have a look to the bottom of a very heavy object, you have in some way to lift it. But in AR, the object doesn't have any weight. So you can literally take a car and put it up with your hands and look under the car without any effort. And it's definitely different because, again, it's like looking at a real car. So you move from left to right, you see every detail exactly as it is if the car is there. When you rotate an object on the screen, yes, you see the underneath part exactly the same way. But the thing is, first of all, it's vertical in front of you. Second, the scaling, unless you have a very, very large screen, will never be 1:1. So the level of detail you can achieve and reach is actually completely different.
I see.